Hello and welcome to yesterday's Airlines. The release announcements keep on coming, and so it is time in this video to take a look at what Phoenix has for us this month. The Phoenix releases have literally just been announced, maybe yesterday, so just slipping into August for releases which presumably will be out towards the end of the month or maybe in early September. And it does look like Phoenix has had a few delays with some of its releases, which is fairly standard amongst most of the manufacturers at the moment. So a couple of the releases from last month, like the American 777 and the A380s, have slipped and haven't been released yet. However, a good chunk of last month's models have seen the light of day. And looking through the pictures of them, some of them look really quite nice. The Azul A330neo actually looks like it turned out pretty well. Obviously, the A340, the Edelweiss, looks great as well, and the South African A340-600, those ones were looking very nice in the pictures I saw. Some of the others, yeah, not looking so nice. Obviously, the 747s look just as awful as most Phoenix 747s look, so won't spend a lot of time talking about those. And I wasn't overly thrilled by the way the Buzz Ryanair Max 8 turned out either. The printing looks, yeah, okay, but yeah, I'm not an enormous fan of the mould, and especially not the nose gear, which even on the release picture I've seen here, it doesn't look like it's attached properly or in the right place or the right height. But at least they got the cockpit windows in the right place. Anyway, we're not here to talk about last month's releases, here to talk about this month's releases. So we will get to that in a second, obviously. As always, like and subscribe to the channel. Really appreciate people that subscribe. Thank you very much for watching. Also check out my other platforms, yesterdaysairlines.com. Obviously the website is key to what I do, but also on Facebook and Instagram at yesterdairlines. Yeah, check out those different locations for different material and interesting stuff throughout the month. But now we'll get on and have a look at what Phoenix have in store for us this month. So this month Phoenix still looks like they've got 14 models on the release list, but there's quite a lot of similarity between several of them. So there's less than 14 to discuss really, and hopefully that'll make this video a little bit quicker than sometimes. We're going to start with the Airbuses and then move to the Boeings and end up with some McDonnell Douglas. It's nice to see some MDD because you don't see a great deal of that in 400 scale anymore. But we're going to start, as I say, with the Airbuses, and the first model which I'm going to pick up on is the Air Tahiti Nui A340-200 registered FOITN. Air Tahiti Nui is an airline which used to visit Auckland all the time when I lived in New Zealand. I'm sure it still does. So it's good to see Air Tahiti Nui. I'm looking at what's been made for them in 400 scale, and they've got a decent number of releases. This will be the 11th model that has been made in their colours, but quite a few of the releases are quite old and using older moulds. And for an A340-200, I can see that there has been 2 releases previously, but they are from Herpa and Dragon. They're both really old models. I think the Herpa one dates from 2001, so they're really, really old. So it's really nice to see that Phoenix have picked up the Series 200 as one of their releases, because I like the livery, it's very colourful, but also I like the mould. Phoenix have got a really nice A340 mould. It's really nice to see that over the past few months they've been delving into the A340 backlog and picking out some interesting models to release. And this really is just another really interesting model for them. Phoenix have previously made the A340-300 on their good mould, and also more recently the 787, of course. So this is the 3rd Phoenix release for Air Tahiti Nui, and I'm sure it'll be a delightful model. So for me, this one is going to be doing very nicely and slipping straight up into the high flyer. So a good start for Phoenix this month. Next up is a model which, on the face of it, looks so incredibly Phoenix that I cannot believe they've not already made 3 or 4 of these already. But bizarrely, looking through the database, I can't see a single Phoenix A340-300 in the 1990s colour scheme. which really surprises me. Maybe it's just missing from the DB. I almost can't believe it. But the only Phoenix A340-300 I can see in Cathay colours is a one-wheeled version, and there are none in the standard scheme. So take from that what you will. Whether you think we need another one, I don't know. Looking at the list here, I can see that there have been 9 other Cathay A340s made, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of them have been in the standard scheme. They've been made again by quite a variety of manufacturers. There's an old Herper, there's a jcwings on a very old mould, there's 3 different Aero Classics versions, and there's one by Aviation 400 which I already own. So because of that Aviation 400 version, I'm not going to be going out and buying this Phoenix version. But again, it's a really nice mould. The A340-300 obviously shares most of the characteristics with the 200. I haven't got any real complaints about it. I'm sure it'll be a lovely model, and yeah, seeing as they've never made it before, no reason for them not to make it now. Cathay always seems to sell well, so I'm sure this one will do fine from a sales perspective, and it will be a nice release. So, you know, nothing really stopping me again moving this one up into high flyer territory. Next up is an A330-200. This one's a China Eastern effort. It's B5920, and it's got the World Skills Shanghai 2022 colours associated with it. Rather sadly, or oddly I guess now, this competition has actually been cancelled due to all the COVID restrictions in China, so the scheme is kind of for nothing. It is quite a nice special scheme though, and the only saving grace of the insanely bland China Eastern standard scheme is that it gives this huge white fuselage that you can put cool special liveries on, which China Eastern does a lot. Getting away from the scheme itself, I would say that, as always, the Phoenix A330 is a good mould. It's up there with the best. I would also, though, say that this model has already been released by ngmodels, and I own that version, and it's very nice. It's also been announced by jcwings too, so this is the 3rd announcement, though only one of the 3 has been released, and presumably this will turn up, the Phoenix version, way before the jcwings one. So yeah, I probably wouldn't get it over the NG. I think the NG A330 is slightly nicer, but I'm sure it'll be a nice model. But because it is so non-unique, I'd say this one's just slipping up into workhorse territory from my perspective. Moving into A330neo territory, and the next model is Condor. And yeah, this livery. What do you make of this livery, people? Obviously, it's Condor's new scheme. I'm not entirely sure if it's actually got a name, the livery, or not, but basically it looks very much like a sports sock, doesn't it? It's got this striping. I can't say I'm enormously enamoured with it. It certainly is unique. I don't like the way that it hides the Condor logo up in the tail and makes it so small between the stripes, but it certainly is bright, and there's certainly plenty of colours. So this aircraft, DANRD, is wearing the green version of the scheme, and yeah, what do I have to say about the Phoenix A330neo? It's okay. It's not quite as good as the jcwings version, which itself sometimes, you know, has some wing angle issues, but in detail I looked at the two and did a comparison, and the jcwings version came out better by a reasonable margin. It doesn't help that the Phoenix version has winglets which don't bear any relation to the shape of the real winglets. So yeah, it's an okay mould. It's not a great mould, which is a shame. I don't love the livery, so I'm going to slip this one up into workhorse territory. I think that I'd probably wait for the jcwings version. And they have announced, no, they haven't actually announced. I thought they'd announced one of the A321s, but they haven't. So yeah, I'd be interested to see if JC produces this, or whether it's too close to Gemini territory for them. Anyway, I'm going to put the Phoenix version into workhorse. So that's all the Airbus wide bodies from Phoenix this month. And next we'll move into 5 narrow bodies, all of which are A321s. They're all CEOs, I believe, and in fact, are they, or is one of them Neo? Let me have a look at the list again. Certainly, the Condor versions are all CEOs. That's right. And the Aer Lingus version is a Neo. Apologies. So the big issue, which I harp on about quite a lot with Phoenix A321s, are the wings. They just don't have the right wing for an A321, and I just can't get over this now that I know about it. The A321 has a different arrangement of flaps, and that means there are more flap track fairings. They've got double slotted flaps on the 321 wing, and Phoenix just have ignored this forever. So whenever you've got an A321 with the sharklets, and then it's got an A320 wing on it, and that really, really pisses me off. And it's just lazy. There's no getting around it. Already, the Phoenix A321 is not a flagship mould. The joke has been for years that it looks more like a TU204 than it does an A321. It certainly is not the best A321 on the market. I would argue it is the worst A321 on the market by some distance. So it's hard to think this is a great, or these will be great models, even before you realise that they're all going to have the wrong wing on them as well. At best, they would be ordinary models. And looking at this new scheme, it is nice that they've announced all 4 colour varieties, the yellow, the blue, the red and the green. ngmodels has announced the yellow version themselves. Obviously it will be vastly superior because their mould's so much better. Also ng's print quality is better than Phoenix, but ignoring that, the mould is so much better anyway. But they haven't announced the other 3, so if you want to get all 4, I guess it kind of makes sense for you to get all 4 of these. But maybe you should just wait, because anybody else who produces this is going to do a better job, because they're going to have the right wing on the aircraft, unless they're Aero Classics who also skimp on the wing. So yeah, I just can't be loving these. I don't love the scheme anyway, to be honest. I don't really love the Phoenix A321 mould, even before you take into account the fact it's got the wrong wings on it. So for me, there's no other thing I can do than put these in gas guzzler. They're all going to be really, the sort of models which, if you're not paying attention and you squint, you think, oh, that looks nice. But hell, as a collector, you really should be aiming higher, I think, than just getting models because it looks nice and you don't have to think about it. I mean, they could just put stripes on anything at that point, and it's a cool little Condor A321 if that's your level of giving a toss about the models you're buying. But I get attacked quite regularly for saying this sort of thing about Phoenix. So there are plenty of people, obviously, who will buy anything they produce if it looks vaguely like the aircraft that it's supposed to be. But it's my video, and I'm not one of those people. In terms of the other A321 this month, that's Aer Lingus. It's again got the same issues of the wing and the mould in general. Looking at what's been made already, both Gemini and NG have made the A321neo, but both of those have Irish registrations, and this one has a G-Reg because it's for the new UK subsidiary. So that's the only real difference. Gemini and NG have both got better A321 moulds. So, again, it has to be gas guzzler because it's just not meeting the minimum standards for what an A321neo should be. Okay, that's the Airbuses. It all started really well, and it's gone gradually downhill with, again, Phoenix just pushing out the same stuff, not making any changes. They've had plenty of time to get the right wing on their A321, and they just haven't done it. So next up, we're moving into 737 territory, and this is another area where I'm not an enormous fan of Phoenix. They do like Skymark, though, and looking through the releases, they've made quite a few Skymark models, including at least 2 prior 737-800s, and they made one very recently with Pokemon colours on, and this is another Pokemon jet, JA73NG. Yeah, ignoring the colours, the mould obviously is really ordinary. Again, it's an old mould. It's never been top drawer, and Phoenix have struggled for years to put the cockpit windows on the thing in the right place. So sometimes you get them looking okay, and sometimes you get them looking shocking, like this JCU effort in the pictures here. So you're never quite sure what you're going to get with Phoenix, where they're going to put the cockpit windows. And again, some people apparently don't care where they put the cockpit windows. Apparently this is nitpicking to expect the cockpit windows to be in the right place on a model aeroplane in 400 scale. So if you're one of those people, good for you. You know, why are you watching these videos? I don't know. But surely most collectors should at least expect the cockpit windows to be in the right place on a model. And if they're not, they should be pointed out that they're not. The previous release didn't turn out that badly, actually, by the look of things. The previous Skymark Pokemon release from a month or two ago. But the mould isn't great. I'm going to give it a gas guzzler again. May be harsh, but the mould is really ordinary. They quite often stuff up the location of the cockpit windows, and you know, the scheme itself. I mean, Pokemon, come on. There's just so many Pokemon liveries out there. And they obviously sell big in Asia, I guess. Last Boeing for the month is a 787, and this one is in the colours of Japan Airlines. It's the one wheeled scheme, JA861J. It's exactly the same model which has been released by ngmodels already, and that has been announced by jcwings. Both of those have vastly superior moulds to this really old Phoenix 787 mould. The Phoenix 787, you know, it's not awful. I've got a couple myself, but it's incredibly dated, and the wing curve is wrong, and in detail most aspects are inferior to the jcwings or the NG version. So really, why would you buy the Phoenix version? I don't really understand why you choose this over the competition, except obviously that jcwings might get theirs out in 2025, but it's going to be a much nicer model. So when you take that into account, the fact that it's already been announced by two other manufacturers on better molds, then this can't be anything more than Workhorse, which is, I think, where I'm going to put it, because I don't hate their 787. I just know that it's inferior to everyone else's. I was going to try and phrase that differently, but it is inferior to everyone else's except that incredibly old Gemini mold, which occasionally slips out with the cradle. Okay, so it's not been a great month so far, in my opinion, for Phoenix. The releases aren't especially interesting. They're quite often on what can only be called bad molds, and only a few are really slipping out on good molds and with vaguely interesting liveries. So let's see how they finish up the month, and that's with a trio of Thai Airways McDonnell Douglas MD-11s. Two of them are registered HSTMG. One has the King's 72nd celebration titles on the rear fuselage. The third one is HSTMF, but they're all wearing the same base livery from Thai. It is a lovely scheme, one of my all-time faves. Can't complain about the livery, and so that's great. And I think I said in one of the other videos, you know, how many Thai releases there seem to be nowadays, and so we've got another 3 this month, and they've all got that lovely classic scheme. So that's nice. What do I think about the Phoenix MD-11? Well, it's a copy, isn't it, or it's branched off of the original Gemini MD-11. And it's fine. It's not a new mould by any means. It is rather dated. It's got a seam, and it would be nice for the MD to get a new mould at some point from someone. But this mould is okay. It doesn't really have any major issues from a fuselage perspective. Though I don't think you can see the engine in the number 2 from the front, which is a bit annoying. But otherwise, yeah, it's okay. Now, in terms of the rest of the mould, one of the interesting things about this mould is that it has basically been modified separately to the mould which has been being used by Gemini. So whereas previously they started out the same, when Phoenix has gone through and added aerials and added new rolling gear, it means the moulds have diverged away from each other. And personally, I have to say that I prefer the jcwings version, mainly because of the undercarriage. The Phoenix undercarriage looks a little tall, and the nose gear tyre looks a little large. And for me, I personally prefer the look of the jcwings efforts that I've seen recently. And if this was a jcwings release, I'd really be jumping up and down saying, hey, that's going to be super cool. As it is, I'm less excited. Phoenix have released Airways MD-11s previously in the newer scheme, and the models looked okay, but they illustrate the things that I'm talking about here. They also seem to make the cockpit windows enormous as well. Perhaps a little bit too large, I feel. This is not the first time either that this has been released in this scheme. That there have been previous Thai MD-11s. Dragonwings made some way back. We're talking 2001, 2002, and actually the model's really nice, and arguably Dragon still have the best MD-11 mould. It's also been made by geminijets, and they made quite a decent version back in 2009. They're probably both quite hard to find, so I can understand why you might be interested in this Phoenix version, and there's nothing innately wrong with it, except, as I said, it perhaps doesn't look quite as great as the jcwings modified version of the mould, and it's probably not quite as nice as the Dragon overall. So for me, these are going to be fine. They'll be good models. I should stop talking about them and just give them a rating, shouldn't I? Workhorse. They're going to be workhorse models. I don't think they're going to be good enough to be high flyer. And that's it. It's not the most exceptional month from Phoenix. We've got 2 models which are basically re-releases of stuff other people have made already, probably better, the China Eastern and the Jiao. We've got a lot of Condor on suspect moulds. We've got a couple of other models on suspect moulds. And really it's only for me the A340s which are standing out as being really going to be great models. So both high flyers and not quite as exciting as, say, the Cam Air A340 they released last month. So not quite supersonic from where I'm standing. But anyway, those are just my views. What do you guys think? What do you want from this set of releases, and what would you prefer that Phoenix were doing with their Js? I'd be interested to hear. So thanks very much for watching, everyone. I'll see you next time. Bye.